This is the day we're gonna start to pull the transmission out of drag truck, put the other transmission in. You saw in my previous video. This is where we get to lay on our back and get a little bit dizzy and get a head rush, and it'll be fun. We're gonna drop these mufflers just to make sure they don't get in our way. Now we can have easier access to the speedometer cable, the lines up here, and the linkage. We drop the drive shaft first. Getting it high enough off the ground is key. Pickups and vans and cars will all need different height to get the transmission out. After we got it up on ramps, went ahead and disconnected the battery cables. Always a good thing when you'll be up and around the starter, removing that. We removed the drive shaft. Just be prepared, you'll get some transmission fluid to come out of there. I was just gonna ask, am I doing the right thing? No, I won't ask. Afraid the answer would be obvious. Another great place to get a lot of transmission fluid is, this bolt was in here, and this kind of holds your speedometer cable in. If you don't know, you got marks here that tell you what range of speedometer gear you have. So if it's in this number, you turn it to this one and this one. That way it makes connection to it and spins your speedometer. And when you pull this out, you're gonna get a nice little amount of transmission fluid out of there. Like so. These are numbered. Make your speedometer accurate. A little number on there. So, of course, a guy could just drop the pan a little bit there in the transmission and get most of that transmission fluid out. Why didn't they come from the factory with a drain plug in them? And if I'm looking a little dizzy, it's because I'm getting there. And I'm just gonna unplug the neutral safety switch here real quick. Gonna break the two transmission lines loose. Gotta hold this with a 1/2" wrench, and then break this one loose with a 5/8 wrench on the outside. Then we got our two shifting linkage. This right here is the gear selector, and the one on top is the kickdown linkage. There's either going to be just like a little pop out or a little clip that holds it in, and depends on what year you have, and we'll get those out of the way now. And then I just popped these two bolts that went into the side of the frame, and this is just the swing joint here where comes down from the column and shifts there. That just popped out with a screwdriver, no clips, kind of like what this is. Just pop it out, and then this one right here goes to your transmission, to your selector. It's really all there is to that. That's out of the way. Next thing I did is just unbolt the two bolts from the starter, and just put the starter balanced on the header there. I didn't even disconnect the wires from it. With the starter removed, I just removed some of the bolts that hold that torque converter cover, dust shield, whatever you want to call it. Now we're just going to get inside there and loosen the 4 torque converter bolts. I normally do that. It's a 9/16 wrench. I put it in there just like that, and I just break it loose with a quick hit with a hammer. And then to turn the engine over so you can get at the next torque converter bolt, I just use a 1 1/4 on the harmonic balancer bolt, and I turn it the same direction that the motor would turn, and like that, until you can get at it, the next bolt, and so on till all 4 of them are out. And this is what you end up with: dust shield, torque converter bolts, dust shield bolts, 1 bell housing bolt that went to the dust shield, and a starter nut, a starter bolt. Out here for the second time today. There's a reason for it. I just went to get started a little bit ago, maybe an hour and a half ago, and I dropped the transmission jack right on my foot. And yeah, so I had to go put ice on it, and it swelled up like an egg was under my skin and turned just about 3/4 of the colors in the spectrum. But anywho, this was a pretty good investment for me. It really saves a lot of back work and things like that. I got it at the good old Harbor Freight. I've been using it, had it around for a little bit. But anyways, it works best taking out transmissions. Keep it off your foot. There was some thought given whether we were going to just put that 727 in like it was, the one in my last video. If we were just going to put in that non-lockup as it was, or maybe pop a couple of new seals in it, or maybe just have it gone through. It wouldn't be that expensive as a bench job. But we decided to put it in there just as it was, and there's a reason for it. And that reason's in this box. This box showed up today, and it's the reason why we're putting it in as it is. It's not a transmission kit. I'm not going to rebuild that 727. It's not a new transmission. We'll show you what's in that box in another video soon. Got all the bell housing bolts out. Only thing holding it in now is the cross member. When it comes to them bell housing bolts, depends on what year, make, and model of car you're working on, but I had to get up in here and get the top two from on top. That's always fun. Everything else came out from underneath for the bell housing. The goal is you get it around the pan like that, you run the chain up and over it, and you hook it. And you can tighten up the chain with this. And then in a perfect world, you just drop her right on down. Easy does it, and slide it on back. Perfect world, remember. I got all the cross member bolts out. Two at the bottom here. And the two at the top. I do want to point out, you want to support your motor, because this will want to drop down when you get the transmission out of there. And I don't like all that pressure on the motor mounts, and neither do I like my distributor to hit the firewall. So I'm doing it with a jack on the oil pan. I really didn't lift up on it. I just got it to where it was snug up against there so it won't drop down, and that's how I'm going to do it. Alrighty, we got it out. It's the old lockup. Spread some oil dry down to clean up the transmission fluid that I failed to get out of it. If you're looking at a transmission and you want to know if it's a lockup or not, this is your story. If it's got this like pilot shaft here, this input shaft, if the splines don't go to the end like that, it's a lockup tranny.